I'm running here by myself. If you guys don't mind, I try to be a self-contained unit. And the bottom line here is first, thank you guys for having me. Where do we start? I'm Berney Flowers. I am a retired Air Force officer. I got time in Iraq. I got time in Afghanistan. I was in the Ukraine, probably might have been the first American there back in 2003. I feel an obligation to this country and for some of the things that I've done over the many years. And so after my time in the military, I worked in the banking industry for a little while. And after that, I found it to be boring, and I went back into the government and spent another 13 years. And that's when the problem started. But first, let me thank Matt for having me. I met him back in Carroll County, back in the winter when Mercedes was having their first meeting, and we just kind of hit it off. And we found out we ate some of the same dirt. Like you said, we were in Iraq at the same time. And he thinks like I do, kind of like a kindred soul. And first of all, Matt, how much time are you going to give me to speak?
How much you want?
You should never say that. All right.
Berney, I know you well enough to know you're not going to bore anyone.
Well, I'll try not to.
Just lock and load.
Okay. Well, with that said, Commissioner Harley, there's a few military guys in here. You guys, what's the word? Warriors, culture warriors, or even better yet, cold warriors. That's the word I'm looking for. See, the thing is, we thought, those of us who were in the military back in the 80s and early 90s, we thought we were going to have to fight and pull the gap. Anybody knows where that is? I know you know it. The issue is that it was going to be a big tank battle with planes overhead. It was going to be the fight of the century, blood everywhere, and that's what we expected. However, it's not turned out that way. Our enemy is here. Our enemy is dug in, and we let them come. And there are people in our government that are allowing them to come. I got to see it up close because I was in a very senior position at DHS and some of the other agencies that I won't mention. But you guys can look up my background. I didn't come here to talk about me. But first, what's new with me? First of all, that book over there, Black Values Matter. If you read the back cover, it'll tell you about what I'm thinking about. Black people, bless their hearts, are voting against their own self-interest. And I want to make sure that stops. And so, thank you. And that's my attempt. Second of all, what's going on with me? I got a podcast. I call it the Loyal Opposition Podcast. Dropped another episode 7. It's all over the internet right now as we speak. And we had Dr. Ray Serrano. I don't know if you know him, but he is a big player in Howard County politics. So we interviewed him, and we'll talk about how to recruit more minorities into the Republican Party, into the conservative movement. Because the issue is, we can't do it with the folks we have. We've got to reach across the aisle and bring some Democrats our way. If I remember, 55% of the voting electorate is Democrats in this state. We have about 31% of the electorate, and there's another 14% of independents. So 31 and 14 is 45. We're still short. So we got to get some Democrats to vote for us. There's a lot of people, as Matt mentioned, that laid out of the election. They did not vote. We got to go get them. But I'll talk more about that. I want to tell you about some adventures I had this weekend. I think you'll get a kick out of them. So me and the Howard County Republican Central Committee, we were at a festival in Laurel. I don't know if you guys know where that is. Kind of a small town, unincorporated. That's how Howard County is. So we're there. There's thousands of people coming through. Fire trucks, regular small town parade. And it was wonderful. But as a black Republican, as a black conservative, I think I pissed off some people. I believe I did. So let me tell you this story. I don't want to mess it all up, and I'm going to try not to curse. First thing, there was this little girl, about so high, She looked like she was maybe 14 years old. Maybe she was 22. I don't know. Me and my friend, who had been sitting there all day, both of us happened to be black, we're in the back of the tent because we had been up on our feet all day. We set up the tent about 6 o'clock in the morning. It's 1 in the afternoon. It's hot outside. We're feeling good. People are coming to the tent. This young lady, young black lady, walks around the front of the tent, comes back to us, and with her little friend. And she's angry. Why is she angry? Because she says something to the effect, Governor DeSantis is taking away my rights. Why are you supporting him? And she's just carrying on and having a fit. And I looked at my friend Sheila, and I said, what's this girl talking about? And I looked at the little girl, and I said, you do realize we are in Maryland. You do realize that we have nothing to do with Governor DeSantis, and I don't know what you're mad about. Will you please explain? And then she slowed down a little bit. And then I said to her something to the effect of, let me see if I get that. She was kind of angry. I'm going to skip all that. But the bottom line is she was angry because she found 2 black people that weren't on the plantation anymore. That's the real deal. We were an anomaly to her. We were doing something that she didn't expect. We were black people under the Republican tent. And it bothered her. And she's carrying on. And I said, ma'am, what do you do for a living? And she said, I'm a writer. And then my friend Sheila said, being the smart aleck I guess she is, so tell us something you wrote. There was silence. All she wanted to do was complain about her elders. So with that said, I said to her, young lady, try to be the change that you want to see. Rather than coming here and arguing with me and carrying on, why don't you take one of my books and read it? And she shut up and went on her way. That's one. Number 2, the young man that was beside us as a contractor, I guess he was promoting his business that he was working for. Big old tall fella, young black guy. And he had been listening to us talk about Republican issues all day. Hey, Fred. And so we had been there for like 12 hours. And so we're packing up. It's 5 o'clock, it's hot, sweaty, I'm ready to go. But I heard him say something like, I've been waiting for this all day. I'm gonna get him now. So I'm over here packing up my stuff, putting the stuff in the truck, and we're loading and trying to get out of there. But that's when he wants to have this discussion. And he's got a problem with Frederick Douglass. We got a picture of Frederick Douglass up there. If you check out Facebook, you'll see it. Because we look like a rainbow coalition for real. But the bottom line is, he said, Frederick Douglass, he was part of the Whig Party, and they believed in slavery. And I looked at him, this kid, while I'm putting my stuff away, and I said something to the effect of, are you sure? Why don't you check that phone that you have in your pocket? Because I think you're going to be fine. I think you're going to find that you're wrong. And he got mad. And I said, then, have you ever been to the Gettysburg battlefield? Yeah. And I asked him that, and he said yes. Well, I said, there's probably thousands of dead white boys up there that would disagree with you if they were still alive. And then he shut up. And then after that, for a few seconds, he kind of thought about it a little bit. And then he said, sir, are you in the military? And I said, I retired after 20 years, 7 months, and 23 days. I got 37 years of protecting your right to speak. And oh, by the way, the people you're talking to, one of them has a PhD. I got 2 master's degrees, and the other one has a master's degree. What is your educational accomplishment? And he said, well, I'm a junior in college. I said, you ought to check your sources before you get in a fight you can't win. And I went on and started, finished up with my packet. Now here's the third story. So it's about 1 in the afternoon, earlier. It's still nice outside. And this old guy, no offense, because we're all old guys in here except for the young guys. This guy must have been This guy must have been a Vietnam veteran type fellow. He's probably 75, 76, 77 years old. And I'm standing in the Republican tent as a black guy out front. And he's walking by real fast. And he says, you guys burn books. And I couldn't stand it anymore. As he walked by, I said, sir, you have mischaracterized me. I don't burn books. I've never burned any books. And then he got mad. So he turns around and walks over to me and starts waving his hand, carrying on. I went to Vietnam because of people like you. And I said, I went to Afghanistan, and I went to Iraq, and I went to the Ukraine because of people like you. Oh, by the way, I don't appreciate you waving your hand in front of me. I'm feeling threatened. And you know what he did? He turned around and ran away. So, why did I tell you these stories? We got to stand up for ourselves. This is life and death here. We may be taking this lightly, but I'm not. Our entire way of life could be changing very shortly. Have you seen this thing about central bank digital currency? I'm scared. I've been working all my life to achieve a retirement and save and all this sort of stuff, and it could be taken away. And what are we going to do about it? So with that said, we got a lot of things we need to worry about. But the thing is, I'm going to read you specifically from the book a quote to get this thing going. If you guys don't mind me reading. And that quote from my own book. Blacks are among the most conservative ethnic groups in America. Somebody needs to tell them that, because as a group, we aren't voting like it. Most blacks I know are concerned with basic common sense issues like crime, inflation, the economy, taxes, vaccinations, among other things. Most blacks I know want equal opportunity, not equal outcomes. Most blacks I know are just regular folks. Republicans are interested in basic common sense issues like progressive Democrats concern themselves with trending social issues. The Democrat Party treats black Americans as voiceless, reliable, generational support. The Republican Party is not much better in its treatment of blacks, offering few viable alternatives to progressive Democrat policies. Liberal policy sounds great in political campaigns, but after several decades of unbroken support, what has the greater black community received in exchange for decades of undying reinforcement of progressive causes? Maybe it's time to audit our one-sided political support. And I offer that America's black civil rights movement has been conflated and neutered through the association with issues of supposedly oppressed minorities. This essay is my attempt to help black voters understand that in the end, black values matter. Now, with that said, prominent scientist, Dr. Thomas Sowell, anybody familiar?
Yeah.
He says that if we can get 20% of the black vote, the Democrats will be ruined. I don't think that's that hard to do. But how do we do it? Personally, I'm tired of losing. And that's why I'm here right now. I'm not exactly sure how we're going to do this. I don't know exactly what we're going to do. But whatever it is, I'm in. There are conservatives in Maryland. Minority conservatives. They're in winning numbers if we go get them. They're in the churches. They are in the synagogues. They're in the mosques. And they're in the streets. So they're watching what we do. We're over here arguing with each other and calling each other everything but a child of God. But they're watching, and they're not going to join on with people that are acting like the Hatfields and the McCoys. We got to watch ourselves. Matt, Derek, if I may, Commissioner, leaders in the military, the things that we do behind closed doors can't be done out in public. We can't be arguing amongst ourselves and suing each other and all kinds of stuff. Shows up in the paper, and then it looks like we are disjointed. And how are we going to follow people? How are we going to get people to support us if we look like we're disjointed? We've got to stop that. And we've got way too much to lose. We had the issues on our side. We had school curriculum, very popular. We had the economy, still do. How about vaccinations? I'm unvaccinated. Didn't like it much. I literally left the government before I took that vaccine. Freedom of religion, economic opportunity, but we still lost. And that's got to change. So we need those Democrats and independents with us. And we've got to go get them. We've got to let them know that we're serious about what we're doing. And we got to stop fighting each other. Remember Reagan's rule? How's it go? The 11th commandment, thou shalt not speak ill of any Republican, at least out in the open. And we're not following Reagan's rule. Reagan was successful. We should follow what he was doing. He was successful. Even, Governor Hogan. Some of you may like him, some of you don't. But the issue is he was successful. And we need to take a successful stance, work together. If we've got issues, then work them out amongst ourselves behind closed doors. But this idea of arguing and fussing and carrying on, can't do that anymore. We need a win, a big one. We need a congressional seat. I'm not running for anything, by the way. We need a Senate seat. We got to get a win. We need a baseline, because right now we don't have one. We got a one-party state. The Democrats can do whatever they want, and we can't do anything about it. I mean, I don't want to get into all that because it would take all night. But the issue of the day is we got to fix this thing. Now, back to the book. There's an old Chris Rock joke. You guys follow Chris Rock? I am not going to repeat that joke, but it's being broadcast. But there's a civil war going on with black folks, and we're all losing. Reparations? Don't even get me started. But all of us, a lot of folks are quick to pull the race card. And as human beings, we should always give everybody else the benefit of the doubt. Let somebody show you they're a good person or a bad person. You might find out that they're a good person. Give them the benefit of the doubt. But anything that goes wrong, it's not always racist. Sometimes it's just, you just ran into a bad person. But don't blame me for all that. Just like that old guy at the Laurel Fair. He looks at me and I didn't fit his profile. And next thing you know, he's angry because I'm under the Republican tent and I don't look like him. He's got a real problem. So, again, we're quick to pull the race card, but Martin Luther King was pressing for meritocracy. And we're not pushing for that anymore. Our government is telling people, well, we'll just give you money to solve all your problems. Money doesn't solve problems, it creates problems. Except for the money you make for yourself. Black Americans are divided, and a house divided will not stand. So why do we allow the corporations and the government to divide us up like this? I mean, anybody ever watch BET? Black Entertainment Television?
Yeah.
Okay. What's her name? His name. Medea. Anybody seen Medea?
Yeah.
6'3", at least 250 pounds, walking around waving a gun and then going to church. This is on television. And people actually believe that black folks are like that. I'm not like that. I don't know anybody like that. I do have guns, but I don't wave them around and I don't wear a dress. I couldn't find one to fit me on my best day. So, but the issue is, BET is not owned by black people. It's owned by Viacom. And Viacom hates us. Viacom is a big corporation that has no use for the American people. They own MTV and all these other shows. Hey, Jen.
Hi.
Did I always say hello?
You did,
Okay.
but I love it. You said it twice.
Well, I get to see you so rarely. So, but with that said, Viacom and all these big corporations don't like us. And they are being used to kind of devolve the community. And so, how about the Woman King movie? Anybody see that? The Woman King. It was out. It's a relatively new movie. It was out in the fall, and the premise was there was this tribe called the Dahomey tribe, and they had this crew of black women warriors who were there as the king's guard. So these two quote unquote feminist producers, they wrote out this movie and had some lady star in it, but basically it was like the Dahomey tribe in real life was the biggest enslavers of our African neighbors. They were the slave catchers. And these two, no offense, white producers whitewashed the whole thing. And they made it like these women were like super women. And they were out, what really happened is they were into the Dahomey tribe. It was so bad that when the British government outlawed slavery in 1833, the Dahomey king petitioned the British government to continue slavery because he was making so much money off the deal. And oh, by the way, the other feminist thing they didn't tell you is that the men in the Dahomey country could have two wives. And if the man was killed, the wives had to die too. They didn't tell you that part. Real feminists, aren't they? So needless to say, there's some lying going on, and I'm here to tell you the truth. The movie did very badly, and nobody went to see it, but I'm just that kind of guy who pays attention to such things like that. I'm kind of weird like that. I love history, and I hate lies. So, Woman King. Let's go on to the next thing. I got a whole lot of things to say, but the issue is I was talking about BET and Viacom. The media controls our image. The media is telling you that black people are thuggish and all the crazy stuff that's going on down in Baltimore. You hear that, but there's lots of regular conservative minorities all over the place that are not being represented. I'm one of them. And there's a lot of us that would vote for our cause if we showed them some love. And so that's why I'm out on Saturdays with the Howard County Central Committee, you know, waving the flag, waving the Republican banner. And I'm going to continue to do that. That's why I'm out in Carroll County with Scott Wells when he's running for office, and some of the other friends. That's why I'm here. There are a lot of minorities that are here that would vote for us, but we just gotta go get them. They think just like we do. They got guns. They go to church. They're tired of paying high taxes, but they're going to be quiet unless somebody leads them. And so, with that said, there are leaders out there. We just got to find them, and we got to support them, just like Matt was saying. So, let's go on to something else. The Negro's greatest stumbling block in his stride toward freedom is not the majority citizens counselor or the Ku Klux Klaner, but the white moderate who is more devoted to order than to justice. That's an MLK quote. So with that said, we're talking Hillary Clinton. People like her. Those northern liberals who make all the laws and you know, destroy civilizations. I mean, literally, you can go to Libya right now and buy a black man that looks like me for $400. Why? Because when Clinton was Secretary of State, she basically allowed, you know, they're the ones responsible for destabilizing the whole country. And they have been destabilized for a long time. And we're supposed to be the force of good, but we weren't in that case. And there's a lot of other things that we're responsible for. Drag queen story time. Anybody know what that is? So the question today is, what are you going to do about it? I don't like the idea of somebody talking to my 18-month-old granddaughter and trying to talk her into doing things that I wouldn't be comfortable with. You guys got grandkids. You guys have children. How are you going to protect them? Why is it some 300-pound man who happens to wear a dress gets to talk to your kids? How come, let's say some woman dresses up in sexualized clothing and she goes into the school? What are you going to do? You're going to call the cops. But if a man does it, the next thing you know, your kid is doing things that you're not happy with. Question is, what are we going to do about it? The votes matter. Elections matter. We have to stop losing because those who win elections control the culture. And we're not doing a very good job in this state of controlling the culture. We are a one-party state, and we have no power, very, very little power in the legislature, and they're doing all kinds of things that we don't like. So keep that in mind. Why? And this is a pet peeve of mine. Let me explain why I'm so angry about this. I used to work on the senior staff at DHS. I saw the secretary of DHS pretty much every day. Him and his deputy, the whole staff. I'm on their row. I see these guys every day. Have coffee with them occasionally because I was their DOD guy getting the money for them to do the things that they're doing. southwest border, Afghan refugee thing, bringing all, we brought 85,000 people here at $1,400 a day. That's $119 million a day unbudgeted. Think I wasn't mad? 1,800, let me change that, 18,000 Haitians show up under a bridge all at once. You think that didn't take some coordination? And now our southwest border, when I was there, I left DOD, DHS on the 18th of January of 2022. Back in those times, we had 3,000 people coming across the border every night. Now, actually last week it was up to 10,000 because it was Title 42 that was going to expire. So we basically got an extra million people in this country, and people in Chicago are complaining. You know why? In a lot of the inner cities, because the government has chosen to bring those people in, and they're giving them food vouchers and apartments, and the people who are paying the taxes aren't getting anything. And those very same Democrats who voted for those folks, now they're mad. All the Lori Lightfoot's voters. So the question of the day, what are we going to do about it? Where's all this fentanyl coming from? I was talking to a gentleman, a buddy of mine, and he was telling me that his grandmother, or his mother went to the doctor, and she was acting kind of loopy. The doctor examined her and found out that she had fentanyl in her system. This woman was 85 years old, wouldn't know fentanyl, she couldn't even spell it. Our medical drug supply has been compromised. And so now you're starting to see fentanyl in people's regular drugs that they're taking every day. And what is our government doing about it? We need to hold them accountable. We need to let everybody know that we're not happy. And we need to start winning some elections. That's the real deal. I can give you some more, but the bottom line is, for black people specifically, whose jobs are these immigrants going to take? Whose jobs?
Ours.
Exactly. Why is our government allowing all these people to come here? I don't know, but I don't like it. And we need to do something about it. We need to let them know that we're not happy. Because what happens in Baltimore will soon happen here in Washington County and Frederick County. So that's why I'm out here. Maybe I'm ringing the alarm, ringing the bell, you call it whatever you want to, but now I'm gonna say some stuff you probably ain't gonna like. But Karl Marx, anybody familiar? Marxist, that sort of stuff, died a century ago, but his acolytes lived. Karl Marx, most people think he was an economist. He wasn't. He was a theologian. And his goal was to produce a religion for all mankind. He wanted to complete man. He and his acolytes want to transform society, and he was wanting to do it through class conflict. Everybody's talking about quote unquote whiteness. Whiteness is a form of private property. Therefore, Marx advocates for the destruction of access to private property. That's what we're dealing with here. Believes that white people have the access to control society. We know better than that. But the Marxists intend to awaken a racial consciousness in people so that they will band together and seize the means of control of production. They want to channel resentment into gaining power. Does that sound familiar with all the woke stuff? That's exactly what they're doing. They're coming out of the Karl Marx playbook, the Saul Alinsky playbook. They're coming right after you and your stuff. That's what the deal is. They want to take your stuff and give it to somebody else, or socially make things equal in their mind, as long as they're in charge. Anybody have access to school curriculum? When's the last time have you seen anybody talk about Karl Marx or Mao Zedong or any of these communist dictators? They call us all kinds of names. They talk badly about Abraham Lincoln and Thomas Jefferson and all these other people who've done nothing to anybody outside of Star Country. But when it comes to Marx, they don't even talk about it. It's like he doesn't exist. These people killed 100 million people. Mao Zedong killed 100 million people. And let's not even talk about Hitler. But the bottom line is they want to create a false religion. And they want to apply it to all domains of life. If you think I'm wrong, there's a Dr. Cheryl Harris who wrote an article for the Harvard Law Review. And she started off with this critical race theory thing back in 1993. So they've been planning this for a while. So the idea of post-colonialism, the West supposedly is the oppressor. They want to decolonize every aspect of Western culture. They want to remove your culture and they want to replace it with Marxism. And I'm here to stop them. And I hope you'll be with me. You can't have this. Anybody ever heard of queer theory? Bottom line, it's their way to attack us. It attacks all things that are normal. If you're a normal human being, a normal man, you're wrong. If you're a normal woman, you're wrong. Everything is wrong except Dylan Mulvaney. Anybody know who he is? The Bud Light guy? Yes. Or Bud Light girl or whatever it is?
Bud Light is.
I don't know, whatever that thing is.
Bud Light is.
The Bud Light is. Yeah. Queer theory. Keep it in your mind. The Neo-Marxists believe that they're protecting the lives of minorities. I'm a black man. I'm a minority. I don't need protecting. I'm not an ist, and I'm not a phobe. We got any ists or phobes in here? I don't think so. I don't see any of them. But they have changed our language. They are changing our way of doing things, and our corporatocracy is allowing them to do it. Public-private partnerships, NSA, did I say that? Three-letter agencies and social media, they're working together. And they're not working for us. So, why has the FBI and the ATF, Fred, why are they acting so weird? I mean, there's some crazy stuff going on right now. And I don't know if you guys have been paying attention to the news, but now we got whistleblowers saying that, oh yeah, we discriminated against the conservatives. It's right there in the news. We got to pay attention to what's going on because there's people that aren't working with us, that aren't on the up and up. With that said, there's an old quote: "The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few." Now, have you ever thought about this? How many of these LGBT people are there? Maybe at the very most 5% of the population.
Yeah.
So why is the government making such a big deal about it?
Exactly.
Yeah, they're making money off of us. They got us on the run, and I don't like being on the run. The elites want to control us, and I'm not feeling like being controlled right now. I'm so tired of black people being used as an unwitting hammer to herd the rest of our country into tyranny. And that is what's going on. It's got to stop. It's got to stop, and we got to stop it. My book is just a small part of that effort. So with that said, it's time for the Republicans to stop looking down on working class people. It's time for the Republicans to reach out and reclaim their roots and their rightful place as a social agent change for good. The Democrats treat the black community as generational support, and they take us for granted. The GOP lets the Democrats get away with it, and my new book is an attempt to stop that. We should, Maryland conservatives concern themselves with black values. Why should that happen? Because black values are American values. Upward mobility, school choice, Second Amendment. Black people believe in the same thing, at least conservative black people. And we need to find those conservatives and band together with them, because this is an all-out attack on society right now, right here. Some people don't recognize it, but as an old Cold Warrior, oh yeah, I saw it, I see it. I've been planning for them, like I said, to come across that Fulda Gap. They're not coming across the Fulda Gap. They're right here, they're dug in, and we're gonna have to root them out. So with that said, additional family and upward mobility is what we're all about. It's time for us to start winning elections in Maryland. And if we don't, God help us. Matt, thank you for having me. Do you guys have any questions?
This is your opportunity.
Ma'am?
Bernie, you said root them out. How do you suggest we do that? So they're embedded here.
Yes.
I have friends who have said the Chinese are already here. They're embedded in our culture. We know they're buying our farmland. We know that they're, you know, yeah, there's a property in Buckystown. A guy who works for me said that there's an encampment basically down there. How do we root them out? And then once we've rooted them out, what do we do to boot them out?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question. And I don't mean physically. I'm not talking about going out and causing any harm to anybody. But we need to first find people who look, or better yet, who think like we do. Gatherings like this. Identify other conservatives. Once we do that, we make ourselves loud and proud. I mean, going out to festivals and letting people know what's going on. Voter Integrity Project. I am involved with some people that are checking, you know, the voting rolls, and we're finding out that in a lot of places, dead people are voting. And we haven't been paying attention to that. We're just thinking everything's on the up and up. Things have not been on the up and up in a long time. So people are angry. Mark, give me a second.
No problem.
No. And so with that said, we got to get ourselves organized. I don't know all the details, but we got to get off our arses. Matt showed a slide up here about apathy. Most people are apathetic. And if you're apathetic, you're going to get run over. I'm not feeling like getting run over. So I say, find other conservatives. I say, get ready for the next election. Because, like for instance, again, Ben Cardin, he is, you know, said he's not going to run for Senate anymore. I think it's Rupersberger. He's not running either. There's a couple other Democrats that aren't running. We should be ready with candidates that are ready to go and prepared to win. So with that said, I say that whole voter integrity thing, get organized, get ourselves loud and proud, get out on the street. Those people that aren't involved, make sure they understand that the culture is under attack right now. So I hope I answered your question. Mark?
So how do you convince people in, like, let's say inner city of Baltimore? How do you
Showing up.
like?
Bottom line, that's kind of why I'm doing what I'm doing. I mean, let's face it. I mean, when you go into Baltimore, they're probably not going to respond to you like they respond to me.
I know.
So I'm trying to be more available, more visible there. I've got some other people that I've been talking to. Matter of fact, Brenda, what's her last name? She used to be your Chan. She called me today, and we had a wonderful conversation about the very, very same subject. And you know, those of us that are conservative, those of us that are minority conservatives, we need to go into Baltimore and bring some people our way. So we're trying. It's not gonna be easy. It's gonna be hard.
Right.
But there are people who care, and that's what we're gonna do.
So we can make Maryland a swing state.
Let's try. Let's try.
Well, a perfect example of that, Mark, is Bill's Barbershop. Bill, I doubt before you went in there, you could have found a Republican, and there's one on the way. And if I'm not mistaken, every barber in that barbershop is black.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's Bill going in there and making a difference. So it's that reaching out, as I said earlier, it's suppress the flesh. Go out and talk. Our ideas win. Our ideas work. Our ideas are common sense. We just gotta share it and stop. I said this the other night about the difference between liberals and conservatives. A liberal is only ever conservative with someone else's money and someone else's rights, never their own. And a conservative, by our very nature, we're basically libertarians. We don't want to tell anybody how to live their lives. We want to be left alone and live our lives. Well, that type of apathy or pacifism has got us where we are. And we have got to embrace the tactics of the liberals and go out and not get in their face, not do those kind of things, but expose to who we are and what we believe in and our values. Like Berney said, the blacks are a conservative group. They just don't know it.
Yeah.
And we have to pull that out and say, and we're gonna win if we all do that. Everyone here in this room tonight, June the 28th is our next meeting, right here. I just confirmed that with Tim Gargano by text. He's giving us another freebie. Bring not one, 2 people with you that don't typically participate or attend. And have a good time. That's how we do it.
And the bottom line is, if we don't do it, the alternative is unacceptable. As I said before, one question, John. Derek?
Yeah, I'd suggest that you gotta press the flesh, like Matt says, you gotta show up, but you can't expect results right away, right? And it's about consistency, and it's not about lecturing, and it's not about convincing when you're doing that. If you show up at the Black Economic Summit at HCC, where I think myself and the Herald newspaper person cover were the only 2 white people there.
Yeah.
Okay? You gotta show up and you gotta engage and ask the questions about what's going on, what about regulations, what's frustrating you, and then slide in some conversation. But they have to get to know you. And it's about going to the churches, and it's about showing up and just asking people at their business shop. A lot of black businesses out there.
There are.
But that's just the start.
It's the
And
start.
everyone can do a little bit, whether it's with youth that are young white people or young Hispanic people that haven't heard our message because they're inundated with other messages.
And there's a lot of conservatives out there, not just black people, Asians, East Indians. They are looking for us to lead. And I will give the folks in Carroll County a shout out. For example, there was a big deal about flags in Carroll County, and those people, I guess the LGBT community, they donated flags for every classroom, and the conservatives weren't having it. And they got with the school board, the county commissioner, and they had those flags removed. And so now in Carroll County, the only flag you can have is the American flag, the state flag, or a sports flag. But that's the power of action, and that's the power of working together, and it's gonna come your way in your county soon enough. John?
This is 2 points. One, I had a conversation with a gentleman, an elected gentleman, at the dinner. I asked him in the House, what's the difference? And the House difference is 62. There's 62 more Democrats than Republicans.
Yeah.
And I answered to him, I said, well, that's 32. He said, what? I said, all we gotta do is win 32, flip 32 of those seats, and then we have a majority.
It could happen.
And in the Senate, it's 21. That's 12.
It's doable.
It's doable. And the response was, well, they're gerrymandered. However, education, what you're doing is education. One of the things that you said, Karl Marx, does anybody really realize that the Communist Party of the United States has not run a presidential candidate for it since 1984?
I haven't seen one.
Okay, during the time that they were running candidates, they were getting maybe 1 or 2%. Big deal. But in 1992, during the Clinton campaign, they were interviewed on the Alan Combs program, and they said, we're very happy with the direction of the Democrat Party. So those people have merged in with the Democrat Party, and the things that we're seeing today is pure Marxism.
Yes.
And people have to get educated on that.
If I may, to caveat with what you're saying, the Marxists have taken over the black civil rights struggle.
Absolutely.
So now you got all these ists and faux LGBT, whatever you call them. Black folks are quiet because nobody's stepping up for them. And now the worst thing is the lesbians and the queer people aren't getting along. And so we just got chaos here.
Isn't it kind of interesting how the leaders of the NAACP that say don't travel to Florida live in Florida?
Imagine that.
Imagine that.
It's crazy. So with that said, sir.
It's interesting you brought Lori Lightfoot up, that I'm watching her get not reelected. I kind of had hope that Chicago why do you think they put somebody in more progressive than what she is?
Black people have been bamboozled and hoodwinked, and they keep thinking that money solves problems. The government should be the last resort, and they're thinking, okay, the government's gonna give me more money and things are gonna be better. It didn't work. And with that said, yeah, this new guy is gonna be a pain in the wazoo, but how's it go? You get what you pay for. They're gonna have to learn the hard way, just like in Baltimore and Atlanta and all these other cities, that if you keep electing these people who are doing the same thing, you're gonna get the same result. And there are places in Chicago that we just don't wanna go. You might get shot, might get robbed. Same thing with Baltimore. And you know, we talked about the fact that there's 800 cops down in Baltimore, that sort of thing. But people need to understand that their votes count, and we have to tell them. And if we don't, shame on us, because we're supposed to be leading. That's what we do in the military: lead, follow, or get out of the way. And if we sit back here and are apathetic about our country, then things will fall apart, and we will be very, very sorry. Because this is an experiment. People don't understand. They say this is an experiment in democracy. The rest of the world, and I try to explain this to people, I've been to 22 countries. I'm sure you've been to more. But the issue today is that it's not like that everywhere else. There's a whole lot of bad things going on, and I don't want it to come here. Rick?
The thing we have to keep re-educating everybody too is the United States, of America, it was founded by the states. They created the government.
Yes.
To basically just, work over, just common conflicts basically. We're so used to everybody saying, well, the government says, no, we need to be saying local, the local
All politics
commissioners.
are local.
All politics is local. If we directed that and get the power of we the people back in there and message that out there, we overcome all those issues. But we're so used to that, they're so used to that drip, drip, drip from media and drip, drip, drip from, we're gonna give you money, and if you're gonna do this, if you're gonna take our money, then you have to do what we tell you. Well, stop taking federal money and go back to the states and go back to using federalism like it's supposed to do, and 50 separate experiments, all working, like what's going on in Maryland, then move to Pennsylvania, right? And vice versa. You move to the state that's gonna cater to what your we the people are calling for.
I couldn't agree more.
That's the problem right now, that we haven't used that philosophy. They had unity before we ever had a country. They had unity before we had the Declaration of Independence. So it's that if we don't find unity at the local level, and we the people don't find together, 1 + 1 = 3, we're never gonna be doing anything.
And speaking of unity, we're gonna have to have some unity in our party. We gotta stop this mudslinging. We gotta stop these lawsuits. We gotta stop the other. If you got something bad to say about somebody, walk up to them. Take them in the back room, say your piece, but don't show out in front of the people you're trying to convince to elect. Ma'am?
And we need to follow our Constitution.
Oh, yeah.
We are not following our Constitution of our country. We are a republic.
Yes.
We should be following what it says. The laws put out before God, not states. Courts don't make laws. They follow policies.
Our courts have become infested with
Yeah.
liberal elites
You got that
from
right.
northern
It's like the
Ireland.
gun laws,
Yes.
So,
completely unconstitutional.
Lot of problem right now too. You got people coming out of Montgomery County. That is one of the most liberal counties in this state. They're all moving to Frederick because they're fed up with the high taxes and all the laws down there.
a lady
And they're
from
bringing it out
Montgomery-
this way.
A lady from Montgomery County called me today and bit my ear for an hour and a half about the very, very same thing. And I couldn't do anything about it because I live in Howard County. But she was pretty hot. And she's like, what are you gonna do? Jen?
I just wanted to say that it's really great to be here, first of all. I think we're not dealing in reality on something. We think that, I travel across the state of Maryland, I have for different things. And I meet a lot of patriots. And I've been in Baltimore, I worked in Baltimore. And there's one thing I know about the black community. Their faith, their family, their friends, focused. And it broke my heart because I agree with you, they've been sold a bill of goods that they're Democrats, but it's a legacy thing.
Yes.
But we are not dealing with the reality that our elections are stolen. And if I say that, I'm an election denier because they use the narrative, they criticize, characterize, and demolish a reputation with one statement, you're an election denier, and all of a sudden we're on defense. We can't do that.
Words matter.
The fact is, the elections are rigged. That's a fact.
Yeah.
Now, we can continue to say, well, we're a blue state, and then Montgomery County, I lived in Montgomery County. I know a bunch of people from Montgomery County in my high school who are Republicans, okay? They just can't tell anybody because they're afraid they'll be ostracized. There's something called the Right Girl DC group, private. You have to be invited in because they don't want to be found out that these women are actually Republicans.
That's sad.
That's sad, but the point is, we're not as left as we think, and they've rigged the elections. So until we start standing up, and we got rid of Linda Lamone, and I want to acknowledge Natalie Abbas for the great work that they've done with lawsuits, okay? Because unfortunately, they have an unfettered amount of money. They can spend our tax dollars willy-nilly in suits, and we have to come up with the cash, right? So we're disadvantaged because they have a pot of gold called taxpayer dollars to fight us on lawfare. But I just want to keep reminding us, because I'm on radio, I'm a communicator, narratives matter. We cannot allow them to tell us, one, we're liberal, because it ain't so. Two, that these are fair elections, because it ain't so. And they have the evidence, we know it was cheated, we know they continue to. So until we start cleaning up the voter rolls, going to these precinct strategy meetings, and understanding how to get down and dirty in the meat of it, we're at the butt end of this, and we can't afford it anymore. We're going to lose our country. We may have already done so. So I just wanted to say that because I really implore you, we are not as liberal as they make us out to be, but it's a great narrative to justify the stolen elections.
Can I make a comment to you?
Berney's the guy, so ask
Okay.
Berney.
Well, Natalie jumped up first.
I'm gonna
Ladies
add,
first, ladies
Yeah.
first.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
just wanted to add on to that, you know, you can definitely get on Zooms. If you don't like leaving the house, you can, you know, there's a lot you can do. There's tons of precinct meetings, there's tons of ways that you can contribute. I work an 8-hour job. I volunteer 6 to 8 hours almost every other night, and it's sometimes 22-hour days, but I've been doing this for almost 3 years, and we do have evidence, and we do know, you know, I took a trip to DC and talked to Ronaldo Venezuela right before his big trip and trial with Kurt Olson and Carrie Lake. So the way he said to do it is, you've got the ERIC system in this state, but not in this state, and we can actually switch names and kind of use those names. Now, he's totally says that we had a fair election, but I said, okay, well, we had a totally fair election, but if you could cheat, what would you do? How would you do it? And that's what he said. You take an ERIC system and you use it from a non-ERIC state to an ERIC state.
They
And
don't
that's
know
how you
what
do
ERIC
it.
system is.
ERIC
So-
system is basically with all the names and all your voters, all your voter logs, all your voter rolls. I have document upon document, but you know what? Just volunteer and reach out. And that's all I can
Natalie
say.
can connect you if you need.
Actually,
You're
let me
interested.
interrupt there. June 28th is our next meeting here, and the meeting is gonna be totally focused on election integrity and precinct organization.
Right.
So, that's what I built for next month, so if we could kind of table that, because,
Yeah.
Derek wants to speak a little bit tonight too about some of the things he didn't cover today, briefly, but I got some other business to cover too. You ready, you wanna go now? I got some business, I was gonna put you in the pack section.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Mark had one
Yeah.
question.
But, you know, that was.
We need to get election judges
Yes,
and
that's
poll watchers.
a great
Every
way.
precinct,
Yeah.
every single one. We need people there watching.
You know, a lot of people sit home during elections and then they're mad because things didn't turn out their way. Well, it doesn't take much to become a certified election judge. It doesn't take much to become a poll watcher. And I encourage everybody, get off your duff, do something. Everybody can't do everything, but everybody can do something. So with that said,
Thank you.
Can I
Hey,
just say one last thing? If anybody wants to talk about the Constitution kind of stuff, I do in my meeting on the 6th of the month over at the Old Tony's Pizza. We talk about Article 5 and how we can use the Constitution, embrace it, and how we can make effective modifications if we need to through using Article 5. You're welcome to come to my meetings, starts at 5:30, about 7. Okay, deal with no disputes.
Thank you, Rick. Real quick, we're not gonna have a meeting in July, that's our pick, July 15th, at Potomac Fish and Game Club. I just announced the June meeting. We still got the pack to go through and some good things to talk about. But I wanna kind of stay on focus. In August, remember, what do we do every August? We talk about personal safety, family surety, keeping you all alive, and why am I concerned about doing that every August? What's the reason? Who remembers why I'm trying to keep you alive?
Because only Democrats are dead.
Exactly, because only Democrats get to come back and vote when they're dead. So we do that. We've got our concealed carry class coming up next month also, on the 4th and the 11th of June. Anybody wants to attend it. But one of the things I talked about last month of personal safety, Berney, get over here, Colonel. I talked about a little device called a tactical pen. And I never go anywhere without it. And you can carry it on an airplane. You can legally carry it. And it's a pretty effective little weapon. And I'm not going to go into the whole thing. Amazon, I'm not going to say how much, because I want to present our guest speaker with his very own tactical pen.
Oh, nice.
Wow. And thank you for and I wouldn't be much of a brother warrior if I didn't coin it.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Like
Oh,
I'm still in
nice.
the military.
Nice.
We got to take this picture. There you go.
Now, if he doesn't have his coin, he has to do
Can I tell a
push-ups.
short story?
I don't know. I haven't seen it yet.
You know, I could be insulted at home. Anyway, so here it is. This tactical pen means a lot to me. I'm passing through the airport in Nebraska, Omaha, Nebraska. Yes, Stratcom's there. And I had been carrying my lucky penknife for 20 years. I was in uniform, passing through to go to Stratcom, and this lady from DHS took my lucky pen that I've taken to so many combat zones. And I haven't had anything like that since until now. So
Wow.
thank you.
Godspeed.
Appreciate it, brother.
We'll write the next book with it.
So,
Maybe, sir, question?
Question. Baltimore City, they've been controlled by Democrats for 70 years.
Yes.
I look at the school system. I grew up in Baltimore County in the 1950s, and Baltimore City had the best school system in the state. If you graduated from Baltimore City High School, you could start in the second year of college.
Wow.
Now today I read where the graduates can't even read and write. Now something happened with 70 years of Democrats. Now they have this DEI theory with diversity, equity, inclusion. But I don't see anything about academic standards, and I didn't hear you say anything about academic standards.
Well, it all goes back to winning elections. And I can say that I'm talking, not just me, but there's a gang of us that are working with, trying to find a candidate to run for mayor, an acceptable conservative candidate. The Baltimore City Central Committee, Tom Kennedy and that crew, Blair Freed and some of those people, they're working hard, but finding an acceptable conservative candidate in Baltimore is hard. But they're on the trail, and I'm doing everything I can to help them. So, but yeah, we got to fix these academic standards because these kids aren't graduating and they can't get jobs. You can't get a job without a good education, and if you can't get an education, now you're looking at the government to take care of you the rest of your life, and that's why things are so bad there. But we aren't giving up. We aren't giving up. I hope I had a better answer for you, but it's just going to take some time, just like Derek said.
So moving on, thank you again, Bert.
Yes, sir.
Now you see why I asked him to come up here, and he came a long way for that. So, hey, 2 months ago, I remember saying something to the club one night that I had a sleepless night, and I went on Amazon Prime, and I found this movie on Amazon Prime. And it tells the story with John Wayne behind the desk of the communist movement in the country, in America, and how they turned American media against the Vietnam War, and how far they've infiltrated the government. The night I met John Hose down at the American Legion, when we were supposed to not have meetings, and I decided to hell with it, we were going to have meetings anyway, when the governor said we couldn't, and we held it out in the pavilion, I held up a book written in 1969, Communism and the New Left, that I bought at a yard sale when I was 14. And I bought 3 or 4 copies and given them away. You can find it on eBay, Communism and the New Left. It is the playbook of what's going on in our country today. And, you know, we've kind of taken the club this year and made it about education. And I think most important, and Derek and Berney will understand, and in the military in here, to beat your enemy, you have to study your enemy. You have to study their tactics. And I encourage everyone to jump on Amazon, rent this, watch it. Grab that book. I'm putting together a